You have to feel as you were the investor always, to put yourself in the place of the investor. Would I buy this? Would I do it? It's easy to recommend something and you're not gonna get hurt if it goes bad. And you see a lot of this happening with the big banks, and they don't care.
I'll talk now to Roberto Nemr. He's an economist and also a financial advisor with a special kind of job. He helps seller and buyers matching. He helps businesses, not only in Brazil, but also in Middle East and United States, and has a lot of experience and stories to tell. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
First of all, is it in the blood? Not only dealing with economy, but also enter the business?
Yes, I think there is a part in the blood. The other part is the love or the interest to understand how things work and how businesses develop. And it's good to see something that progress with time. And that goes well. When you are a shareholder of a company and you see this company moving up, it's not the financial gain only, it's the fact that you got a story that is a good story. So it's the same when you have an idea or you look at a business and you find someone interested in it, and it works well. It's not nice when it doesn't. You just do it. You're just trying to push something to someone at a high price. I don't think it's interesting. You have to feel as you were the investor always, to put yourself in the place of the investor. Would I buy this? Would I do it? It's easy to recommend something and you're not gonna get hurt if it goes bad. And you see a lot of this happening with the big banks, and they don't care. They just want to sell the story. So this is why I think it's good to be independent. You're not you don't have to do something against your will.
How many languages do you speak? Can you give us some examples about your approach to the clients?
I speak 5 languages more or less well, which is Portuguese, Spanish, English, French, and Arabic. Normally in a business conversation, the English tends to be the predominant technical issues, but you can give some flavor or talk something in the language of the person. It's a nice gesture to do. So you can say, introduce yourself, for example, مرحبا تشرفنا أنا بدي أحكي عن زراعة بالبرازيل, for example. Start to say, how are you? A pleasure to meet you. We're going to talk about agriculture in Brazil. You can say it in Arabic and then you switch to English, because I'm not going to say 200,000 hectares in Arabic. I don't think there's a point of doing. And the same in French. If the client is a francophone and he prefers to speak in French, I can do it quite well. Comment allez-vous? On peut parler un peu sur l'économie brésilienne. Il y a une tendance positive, des chutes des taux d'intérêt. Nous croyons que le prochain an sera avec une croissance comme ça. Après, on peut changer de langue.
What's your criteria to enter in a certain business?
It's basically, first of all, I think, would I enter myself if I had money to invest? Would I do it? And then to see the criteria that one classic book on investment, The Intelligent Investor, says to have a margin of safety. I won't pay more than the average of the market for this kind of business. I always want to have, for example, the replacement value I'm not paying above the replacement value of this business. I'm getting a reasonable multiple for the earnings and for the free cash flow. This kind of stuff to give me a sensation that I'm not overpaying. The most difficult thing is the price you enter. Like anything, when you buy a house on the peak of the market, you take years to recover. But when you buy it on the market is low, whatever happens, you got it at a good price. I think should be. Unfortunately, the markets, they move on herds. It's like a sheep on a herd instinct. Everyone wants to buy when everything is expensive, so people tend to overpay for certain assets. And we try to have a fair valuation for our client and to convince the seller that, okay, you have to give a discount, you have to be more realistic sometimes about the price they are. Especially markets that are not so liquid. And the stock market is a way of saying, oh, the price is this. It's not that it's always correct, but there are markets where, like real estate, it doesn't have the same liquidity, so you have to be careful.
Roberto, which are the industries that you act?
We look to several sectors of the economy. Macrosector has an expertise in many industries, but we have a particular knowledge of agriculture that we are using now because we think it's an area where Brazil has comparative advantages and we see opportunities there. But we also look at, with South Point, I looked a lot at real estate in Brazil and also in the US. And we look at the industries. We have experience in all the industries that in Brazil have some importance, like retail and other sectors. But we are focusing on these areas that we don't try to do everything every time, so we don't do it well. So we try to focus on what we know better and where we feel there is demand. And at the moment is these sectors that I mentioned.
Nowadays, which are the trends for businesses in agriculture in the world?
I think given the fact that you have public equities very expensive and real fixed income, very low yields, also in Brazil a trend of decrease in interest rates, I think it's favorable for what we call alternative assets, which are assets less liquid, but which benefit from the fall in interest rates. One of them is agriculture. I think it's a sector, if you look at the long term, it's an area where the surface of arable of land is farmable land is limited, and the main continents where you still have is Africa and Brazil, South America in general. Africa, you have a lot of climate and political risk, which is higher than even terrorism and big swings in governments. In Latin America, South America, I think Brazil is the area where you still have a lot of space and a lot of room for expansion and for increase in productivity in the existing areas. And also a more professional management. Up to now, it's dominated by families, and the families they manage their business according to the very short term, how to finance the next crop, and I think having foreign ownership will give these companies more financial support to expand and to look at better management skills to finance their business, to operate in the hedge markets or to derivative markets, and also to expand. So I think it was a very good trend, this combination of the local expertise and foreign capital to give more support to these companies.
And the trends in the real estate industry?
I think looking globally, you have, because of these very low interest rates, you have some countries that already are in a bubble, like Australia or Canada, where the prices are very high. And you can see only one way going forward, which is to fall and to adjust, because there is a very low rates, a very easy finance, lack of alternatives, and people go and even they buy to invest. I think in the case of the US, you have some areas that are very expensive, but some areas didn't reach the peak that we had in 2008. It's a mixed picture. I think there are other credit areas in the US that are more problematic at the moment, like auto and student loans. In Brazil, we are living for 3 years a big crisis in the sector, and I think finally you're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel with fall in rates, adjustment in inventories. There is less new construction in the last 2 years. So supply and demand should meet the next 6 to 12 months, and prices are stabilizing or even going up in some. I think it's an interesting area in Brazil that will attract new money.
Roberto, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. We can talk again in the future.
Sure. Luciane Miranda to Dukascopy TV.